In a huge show of support and strength by the 99% movement, Republicans have answered the cry of Americans fed up with income inequality. The GOP solution? More tax cuts for the rich. That's right. House Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan revealed a 17-page report called A Deeper Look at Inequality. Ryan was responding to an independent study by the Congressional Budget Office, which supports the central message of the 99 percenters. The CBO report showed income of the top 1% grew by 275% between the years 1979 and 2007. Now you'll see on that graph the much flatter lines on the bottom of the chart show income growth for everyone else. So it's Ryan to the rescue, coming up with classics like this one. The quote, the share of the federal tax burden borne by the top 1% increased dramatically. Ryan's solutions is so-called tax reform. The nation is long overdue for the kind of pro-growth tax reform that broadens the base while lowering tax rates. Give me a break. Ryan wants to return to Reagan-esque, Reagan-era tax rates for the wealthy at 28%. Or even better. Make no mistake about the meaning of broadening the base. Ryan is talking about basically the 47% of Americans whose income is currently too low to pay federal taxes the way the system is right now. Ryan and the Republicans, you know what they want? They want those folks to pay more. Republicans aren't just nervous about the message of the 99% movement. They're nervous about its continued strength, as demonstrated by yesterday's nationwide protests. Republican Congressman Peter King trashed the movement again last night.
To me, any group that wants to be taken seriously should not be conducting itself that way. To me, there was absolutely nothing about them that would resonate with the American people. There was no real message coming from them. And to me, there were people living in their own filth. I don't see why the media or anyone took them seriously. To me, there was absolutely nothing there that was resonant with, again, with middle America, if you will.
Well, obviously, King wasn't paying close attention to yesterday's protest. He was regurgitating his own talking point. Here's what he had said earlier in the week.
First of all, you try to listen to them, and they make almost no sense. These are people who are living in dirt. These were people who were involved with drugs. There were violence. There was rape. You're talking about a small number of people.
Oh, absolutely. They're all scumbags, aren't they, Peter? We heard a similar talking point from Republican presidential candidate Newt Gingrich last night.
And the question is, how many innocent people will be hurt? How much innocent property will be destroyed? How much damage will they do to the society at large?
Oh, hell, there's riots all over the place. You wouldn't believe it. Even has-beens like Sarah Palin are getting in on the act, denigrating the 99% movement and connecting the movement to President Obama.
This is really getting out of control, this Occupy Wall Street, these shenanigans, and yet Barack Obama has not taken the time to rein these folks in.
But the movement is preparing for its next big step. A coalition of labor and progressive groups is planning, here it is, Occupy Congress. Unions like the Service Employees International Union and the Communication Workers of America will bus thousands of protesters to Congress to congregate on the Capitol December 5th through December 9th. So, do you think the movement's growing, or is it dead, like Bill O'Reilly said in recent days? Which is a good thing in his opinion. No. This is the tip of the iceberg, my friends. Get your cell phones out. I want to know what you think. Tonight's question. Do Republicans mock the 99% movement at their own peril? Text A for yes, text B for no to 622-639. Our blog is there for you, waiting for a comment at ed.msnbc.com. We'll have the results later on in the show. I'm joined tonight by Mary Kay Henry, International President of the Service Employees International Union. Great to have you with us. Well, this is
good to be here.
You bet. This is big news. We're going into a new phase. Tell us about going to Washington. What's the plan?
Well, you know that last night was an expansion, Ed, and today we are pushing signs out in every corner of the country that says we are the 99%, good jobs now, make Wall Street pay. So people are putting it in their houses, their churches, their workplaces. And then tomorrow we're doing community canvassing in neighborhoods. And we're building to bringing people to Washington all across this country. People are saying We have the capacity as a nation to get 15 million people back to work in good jobs in January. People in Congress just need to make the tough decisions. The Republicans need to decide to stop protecting the 1% and get us back to work.
And Mary Kay, how big is this effort going to be in Washington? I mean, 30, 40, 50,000, and it's from the 5th into the 9th. I mean, is this going to be for a week?
Yes. I don't know how many people yet, Ed, but yesterday 256 people took arrests at 300 different community actions that occurred. So it is beyond being able to count because people have had enough. And they are going to come, I believe, in droves. And we want to symbolically say there are too many unemployed in this country. There's too much injustice. People have lost their homes. We need to take action now. We cannot wait until November of 2012.
Why did you think it was important to get arrested last night?
Because I thought it was really important to join with faith leaders, community leaders, other members of our union who have never been arrested before, and say that we think it's time to disobey the law and to draw a light on we've tried everything else, and we want to make it crystal clear enough is enough. There's a state of emergency for working people, and we're going to do whatever it takes to draw attention and get action from our government, from the wealthiest in our nation, and from corporate CEOs.
Not that this movement has been co-opted by any particular party, but do you think that the Republicans are nervous about what's going on?
Absolutely, I do. That is the party that is scapegoating immigrants, that's attacking public workers, and is protecting the richest Americans in our country, and many of whom I believe want to contribute to our prosperity. We are a great nation. We are an American family. People want to care for each other. We want to love each other. People are hurting, and there's no reason we can't respond to the suffering and crisis in this country by creating 15 million jobs tomorrow.
What if you go to Washington with this, for lack of a better term, a march or sit-in or whatever is going to be? I mean, I'm all about it. I think it's great. But what if you're ignored by Congress? What if they do nothing? What if they pay no attention to you?
Well, we are not going to rest until we get back to work and restore justice in this country. And so we're going to go to congressional hearings. We'll go to K Street lobbyists. We will deal with the Chamber of Congress. We're going to stay in the streets and keep expanding our movement, reaching out to all across this country. Because I think yesterday marked a feeling by a lot of communities who said, maybe I have to just suffer. And now we have hope that we can make change.
And one more question. Your response to Bill O'Reilly and the Fox, pretty much everybody over at Fox, but O'Reilly especially, saying that this movement is dead.
Crazy. He's ridiculous. Bill O'Reilly is totally out of touch with the American people who are ready to stand up and speak out and get what we deserve. Mary Kay Henry, president of the Service International Employees Union. Great to have you with us tonight. I appreciate it. Good to be with
you. Now let's turn to Jesse LaGreca. He's the Occupy Wall Street protester and activist. Jesse, I've wanted to meet you for a long time. You're doing some great work. You've been on point since day one. How big was yesterday? What does it mean?
Yesterday was tremendous. We literally had people in all 50 states across the country stand up and say enough is enough. And when you look at the solutions that the Republican Party offer, it's the same nonsense they've been shilling on us for 30 years. Tax cuts for the rich. If we just give the rich all the money they want, then they'll finally feel secure and create jobs for us. On the other hand, they're busting unions, making it harder for us to put food on our families' tables, denying us health care. 40,000 people in America die every single year because of lack of health care, preventable diseases. It makes me laugh that the guys who literally fought to give corporations the right to freedom of speech want to deny Americans the right to protest in a public place. You know, I think Sarah Palin needs a full-time day job. She apparently has nothing else to talk about. It's not startling to me. These guys are paid to say what they say. They take large campaign donations, and I'm not surprised that they do the bank's dirty work.
What do you make of Peter King, you know, in his depiction of the 99%ers that are out protesting? I mean, he said some pretty degrading and vile stuff. Your response?
Well, he's done some degrading and vile stuff. The man basically lied us into the war in Iraq, and he's been yet to be held accountable for that. That created tremendous deficits, which are now being used as an excuse to destroy every program the Republican Party's voted against for the last 80 years.
And what do you make of the unions now saying that they're going to organize, they're going to go occupy Washington? You in on that?
My father was a union carpenter. I absolutely stand with unions.
So there really is no one group that's really taken over this group, because there's a lot of conversation early on about what are the 99 percenters. They don't have a real focus. I want you to respond to that.
To me, I think our message is so obvious that you really have to be willfully ignorant to ignore it. The majority of working class people are hurting right now. Our out-of-touch bribe politicians are selling this agenda that only benefits the wealthiest 1%. How can we cut their taxes? How can we deregulate in their favor? Oh, but you need something, Mr. Working Class Guy? Well, I'm sorry. You're just going to have to face some cuts. The Republicans only operate on one playbook, and that's whatever Bank of America or BP or David Koch or whoever else is financing their campaigns wants them to talk about.
You know, a lot of the demands that are surfacing, and I said this on the air the other night, parallel that of the Democratic National Convention in 2008. Now, whether that's what you intended or not, I don't know. But, I mean, we're talking, you know, the wealthy paying more, obviously fair taxation. We're talking about universal health care, supporting public education. How do you see all this?
Well, I mean, when I wrote that last night, I was really expressing my own opinions. At the same time, I'm happy that so many people share those values. Because to me, that's the values that we're talking about: protecting our families, rebuilding our communities, investing in America. At the same time, it's frustrating that I find that I'm kind of more Democratic than some Democrats are. That, you know, if we're going to go to Congress and pressure Congress, we should not just ignore the Democrats there. Ben Nelson, Senator Ben Nelson, Senator Max Baucus, a bunch of these worthless blue dogs who really don't represent anybody else but the special interests. We should occupy their offices too, because they're certainly not helping right now.
O'Reilly says it's dead. He says it's a good thing. Your response?
So is Dr. George Tiller, unfortunately. I think Bill O'Reilly's hurt enough people with his words, and I think that it just shows how out of touch he is to think that this populist uprising all across America, well, if the Republicans can't own it, I guess they have to destroy it. That's their modus operandi.
Now, I have been to Portland, I've been to Minneapolis, been to Madison, been to Toledo, and been to Columbus. And I've been to Newton, Iowa, in the middle of the country, all within the last 60 days, all of those places I've been. And I have asked people in every single city, does this movement, what they're doing on Wall Street, do you relate to them? And emphatically, the people say yes. What's that mean? What's that mean to you?
It means that Occupy Wall Street represents a broad cross-section of America from all walks of life: students seeking higher education, people who are professional, who are still paying off their student loans, right down the line.
You think you had anything to do with the Senate Bill 5 going down in Ohio?
Oh, certainly. I would definitely say so. We've activated so many people for the first time who have never engaged in politics or anything of that manner. It's very viral.
Well, what do you say to those people that say you're a bunch of anarchists out there?
I would suggest that they stop watching propaganda distributed by Rupert Murdoch's international crime syndicate.
Well, that's a pretty good answer. Right to it. And of course, the recall of Governor Walker, which we're going to talk more about in just a few moments. You think that this movement is going to also have an effect on his recall?
It absolutely should. You know, I got to visit Madison myself a week or two ago. I've got some friends out there. And in my opinion, I think we should be putting pressure on all of the politicians who benefit only the wealthiest 1% to the detriment of everybody else in America. So Governor Scott Walker, Governor Rick Scott, right down the line. Not just Republicans either. Some Democrats need to be, you know, put on the unemployment line.
Well, you can throw Snyder's name in there too from Michigan. He's pretty
absolutely
radical as well.
What they're doing is they're repealing the 20th century. And I keep telling people, I'm not against capitalism. I'm against crime. For these guys to talk about we're the party of personal responsibility, and yet when you ask them what they've done wrong in the last 10 years, they have nothing to answer for. They're very hypocritical, and I think they're doing a disservice to their countrymen. Jesse LaGreca, thanks for joining us tonight. Let's do it again. Absolutely. Remember to answer tonight's question there at the bottom of the screen and share your thoughts on Twitter at EdShow. Want to know what you think.